one sec. So, Kerry,
Yes.
it's been a long time.
Absolutely.
This is for the untold story of Raregroove. The
Okay.
idea is to get an insight from the people who were there,
Yeah.
the people in the background, the people who might not have got their dues at the time, but were living it,
Yeah.
experiencing it, and on the dance floor. And of course, being a dancer, we really want to hear your story. So take us back to the very beginning.
Wow. The very beginning, I think the first time I started venturing out, I wasn't supposed to. I was about 12 years old, and I sneaked out to a club which was across the road from where I live, and I was dancing to basically George McRae and Rock and Me Baby, so I was saying the years. I started, a couple of years later, going there more frequently, and then hearing about the different music and the different places was playing the music, which drew me into London. So I was getting into London around about 77, 78. That was 100 Club, that was Crackers, that was on a Wednesday night, that would have been, I'm just trying to think of the name now. Before it changed its name to, it was a Lyceum, it was just down the road from the Lyceum. They was doing nights there, and I was just following the music because I wasn't hearing anything like it. I didn't know what it was, and I just wanted to have that and then take it back home when I could. So I was going record shopping, just picking up little bits because I didn't have much money. I had a paper round. That shows how far back that was, and then what I got from that was allowed me to get into London, get me into a club, and mainly allowed me to buy 1 or 2 records. I was seeing dancers that really just blew my mind. Paul Trouble Anderson, I was seeing Stuart Thomas, I was seeing Ian Baptiste, I was seeing Mohammed, I was seeing Little John, I was seeing Barry Kay. There was lots of dancers mixed in, and you just started to kind of go around and follow and hear where things were happening, and you went there to find the groove in the music. I was probably clubbing about 4 to 5 nights a week up and down the country when I could, because friends of mine would take me there. If not, I'd get on the train, get the last train back, and walking miles to find the groove. So for me, it's always been about the music and the dance and the style, because then, of course, we all wanted a Vivienne Westwood t-shirt, or a Cap Sleeve t-shirt, or a pair of pegs, or jelly boots, or Lois actually was just before the Levi Revolution, that kind of thing, and with your skull cap or your big hat or your flat cap and your white t-shirt and whatever style jeans you wanted to wear. So I've been following that, and I'm still very much into it, because through that I started to dance, especially during the kind of acid jazz revolution, and that would have been about 87, 88. I was still going to clubs which were soul clubs, but in the middle of nowhere, just in the back of a pub, and they were playing some really classic soul, some Raregroove, because that took me off on the jazz tip, because I was really getting into my jazz. And so on the jazz tip, I was going to the jazz club, but as a dancer I started dancing for groups and started kind of helping other groups to formulate their dance styles and lead the way, because what I wanted to do was push dance to the forefront. I mixed with so many dancers, it's untrue, and I've had the privilege of dancing with quite a few, and I'm still on that real trip today. So this is where I've come from, and this is what I'm still representing. I've got a session called Just for the Funk of It, because I do love my kind of early 70s funk, with mixing with Raregroove and soul and disco soul, and trying to put a set together on that tip, of course, and then go from jazz funk to Latin funk to kind of jazz to dancefloor fusion and all that kind of groove. But all of it, that underlying theme is the soul of it, and it's come from that, and that's what I've been involved in and love representing and still doing now.
So we're going to go through a little bit of a journey, but just before we do that, how would you actually define the Raregroove sound? What is it that, first of all, how would you define it, and what is it that draws you to the dance floor for that kind of music?
What drives me to the dance floor for that kind of music is the groove. There's a beautiful soulfulness in it, but depending on whose definition on Raregroove is how funky it is or how just beautiful classic soul it is. I prefer the kind of funkier side of things. It just something that's got a nice steady beat, but it's got a groove, and there's a funk connotation running straight through it, which is beautiful. The other side, of course, where you've got the absolutely piercing vocals, which just goes through you, and it just takes you away, and you're just moving gracefully and staying within the music. My end is definitely more of the funk bass. That's where I came in with the funk, and I'm always looking for the funk in it, so I try and push that kind of boundaries. As a dance style, well, at the time anything went. It was smooth, it's quite sophisticated. The dance style that matched the music, it was the one that sold the music in a sense. But once you saw the dance, you wanted the music, and once you wanted the music, then you wanted to dance, so you started kind of chasing both.
It's really funny that you should explain it almost in those terms, because today I was on the Raregroove Connoisseurs,
Yeah.
and I was talking about what I call this positive loop, and someone was talking about sort of more commercial dance.
Yeah.
And I was saying, well, when you've actually been behind the decks and you've stood and you've absorbed the energy from the dance floor,
Yeah.
you actually want to give back to the dance floor. You want to take that dance floor to another level. So you go out and you search for more music
Yeah.
of the same kind of feel, but it takes you on a journey where you are feeding the dance floor, and the dance floor feeds you, and that energy goes round in what I call a positive loop. I call it feeding the positive loop. And
Okay.
once you go down what I call the rabbit hole of Raregroove,
Yeah.
there's kind of no turning back, because there's no other music that has those kind of funky cross rhythms. So what I'd love to hear from your point of view
Yeah.
as a dancer, because this is what's fascinating, is that you're experiencing the music on the dance floor,
Yeah.
rather than a DJ talking, or someone who's got recognition from maybe the press, but you were actually on the dance floor. So what I want you to do,
Yeah.
could you paint a picture of the old school? So for the people that weren't there,
Old school.
take them
Wow.
back. I want you to actually relive, even before you got to the club, maybe
Yeah.
even getting dressed, the
Yeah.
clothes you were
Yeah.
putting on, the
Oh, yeah.
smells, everything. I'd love you to paint a picture from the beginning of an evening right the way through, and see whether we can, as I said,
See if I can be.
see if we can get that
Yeah.
kind of capture that moment in
Okay.
words for people who weren't there.
Okay, the best way I can try and paint this picture, you've got a session, this session is going to happen, say in a couple of weeks time, because you got a flyer, or you heard it from word of mouth, because remember, there was none of this kind of medium we've got now, or you had to stand at the end of the telephone. The telephone would be a telephone box, so someone said, oh, it's going to be here, that kind of thing. And so once you knew that, then you're on your way. So they're kind of ways that you found out what's going on. Or if it was a club that was playing the music, it's going to be there. Now, a couple of weeks before, you'd have gone in there, you'd have seen someone dancing in a particular way, or had a particular style to how they're dressed and how people were gravitating towards them, and the atmosphere around them, and people buzzing and people just getting down. So you thought, okay, I'd like to have a piece of that. So you went back, and you couldn't just go out and do it in one blast. It was just impossible unless you had money, but you didn't have money. So you got a piece that kind of made you feel that yes, you're going to be part of this kind of group that is funky, it's different to everything else. You didn't go around and speak to your neighbour, because your neighbour didn't know what it was, because you were going to the clubs, they weren't. So you felt that you were belonging to this incredible kind of band of people, which was like, it was different from everything. So you thought, so that was kind of the preparation. And then you was thinking, okay, how am I going to kind of dress, or okay, oh yeah, I want to put my jeans on, might be in fridge, or you might put a plate down the front of it. You get a nice crisp t-shirt, you make sure that's ready. You had, of course, you had a little bag with a spare t-shirt because that's in case, because we were traveling. And then suddenly it was like, okay, how am I going to get there? Don't worry about getting back, just get there, don't matter, you know. So if you're stuck, but you're going to get there. So you got there, and you're coming down the road, then you're seeing a couple of people that you recognise. There's a little nod, because you know they're going to the same place, and then suddenly your walk start and get a little bit funkier in a groove. Then you're stepping in, getting in the queue and chatting at the way at the door, and then you go down the steps, depending what club it was, or go upstairs. And then you went in, and when you went in, you knew it just kind of went out, and it's almost like you didn't stop talking, but you just looked and see who was doing what was doing that, whose DJs were playing, and then you thought, yeah, where can I put my coat? Where am I going to? I'm putting a cloakroom, but I haven't got much money. Let's put it behind here. Let's get there, crisp down, and then the music started. You know, you didn't want to kind of seem eager because you feel out of place, but you just want to find the groove, get into it. Once you get comfortable and looking around and people acknowledge you if they know you, or you saying hi because they recognise you on the street, then the tracks started to hit you. And then when the tracks started to hit you, you started really just being taken away by what was being played, and then start dancing, and then start going forward, and then start looking around, and you see you're not the only one that's in the same kind of mode. Everybody's dancing, everybody's smiling, everybody's really getting down. Some people are getting really low down and funky and dirty, and you just stop and you have a look, you go, wow, you have a look and think, okay, and let me try that, and you think, oh, I've got it. Then you start practicing that, and then some people start talking to you about the music, and before you know it, this track's over, and you're thinking, what happened? So you think, okay, I wonder if they know it, and you don't want to look uncool, so you don't ask. You go there and say, oh, what was that track? And sometimes the DJ would say, sometimes it's this, and put it down, go back to the next track. And well, once you've done the whole session of that journey home, then you float home. It's nothing else. You just float home. You know, you don't know what's happened. You don't know what you was dancing to. Some things you remember. You remember there's people who were talking to you. Remember that there was a big mass of people really getting down. You remember the smiles. The club, you know, there was a musty smell, because suddenly from being kind of, you know, empty, it's full of hot, groovy, sweaty people, but it all felt good. So when you came out, you're hot, you're sweaty, you put your jacket on to get home, and then you start to get that journey home, and then you just really just kind of like thinking, where was this? What happened? What was this all about? And you get back, you wake up the next day, and then you think, you're going to tell someone, and there's no one to tell, because it's like you came out on your own, you know what I mean, until you find a couple of people like-minded, and you think, oh yeah, got to get a crew together to do this, because then they're sharing the same experience. It was heaven. It was just so cool, and it was so excellent being part of something different, and then you kind of live for that next experience, and that's how I found it, and that's what I loved about it, and I still do, to be honest. I'm trying to pass that on with the different types of music, and encourage people to dance, and bringing people around Europe to have a look at what's going on in the UK, and then telling them about the music and where to find the music, what to look out for, because this period, it is so special, and it is a real untold story. There's people coming from a DJ point of view, they're coming from this point of view, coming from promoting point of view, but you know, together, that's what makes it. We couldn't do it